Hello and welcome back to another video from GM Runs Game. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Dragonbane in the Roll20 virtual tabletop from a player's perspective to create a primer so that you understand what your character sheet's going to look like, you understand the functions of the character sheet and some of the fun things you can do while you're in the game. And we'll also talk about a couple of rules linked to some of the functions with the character sheet that are maybe a little bit tricky to get the hang of, particularly if you've got a full party and you're running a game whilst trying to explain them, just so that they can land before the game, and then you'll be able to see them in action as you play. So let's have a look at this sheet as an overview. So this is Archmaster Aodin's character sheet. He's a human mage specialising in elementalism, and here you can see his attributes: his strength and constitution, agility and intelligence. And below each of those is a condition. So for strength, you've got exhausted. For constitution, you've got sickly. And we'll go into how those work in this video a little bit later. In the middle of the character sheet, we've got the character's skills and their level in those skills. That will account for any bonuses that they get based on how good their attributes are. On the left-hand side, we've got their abilities and their spells. Because I'm a wizard, I've got Fireball, Pillar and Gust of Wind as magic spells, and I also have Heat Chill, Puff of Smoke and Ignite as magic tricks, which for Dungeons & Dragons players work in a similar way to cantrips. Because I'm a human, I also gain the Adaptive ability. And then on the right hand side we've got our inventory, our mementos, any tiny items that don't count towards our backpack space. Below all of that information, which is the real meat and bones of it, we've got our armor rating, so we can type in what type of armor we've got, and we can type in the middle, say it's a 5 for example, and that'll reduce our damage or applicable damage by that much. Below that we've got our weapons, so we've got a staff here, and then on the bottom right hand side we've got our rest mechanics, so round, stretch and shift. We've got our willpower points, which is the pool of points we use for our abilities and our spells. We've got our hit points, and then we've got our death saves. So let's start by making a basic attack. In order to make an attack with a melee weapon, you open your character sheet, you come down to your weapons, and you click on the word staff. This is a roll under system. So we've rolled a 16, which obviously isn't under a 10, but if we had rolled a 10 or under, it's a meet to beat. We would have dealt one damage to what we were attacking, which is a bit disappointing, but we didn't even make the roll, so that's fine. The next thing we can do to show how the system works is we can make a skill check, which is something from here. So let's say we are trying to decipher a book. So our languages here is 14, so we should have a pretty good chance of succeeding with this, but dice be dice and you never know. We did succeed, so we rolled 1d20, we got a 10, which is under 14, so then the GM will reward us with whatever information we get for succeeding in that skill roll. In this game, a 1 is a critical success, and a 20 is a critical failure. We can then look at our abilities and our spells. So let's say we want to cast Fireball. The first thing we can do if we want to learn about these is click on the speech bubbles on the left-hand side, and it's going to tell us how Fireball works. Basically, it works by dealing 2d6 damage to an enemy for each power level, which we'll go into, that we increase it by. We either add an extra dice, so we'd go from 2d6 to 3d6, or you can deal d6 damage by creating another fireball that splinters off, kind of like chain lightning, and hits another target within range. So we're going to cast this at level 2. So we're going to click on Fireball. It's going to want us to make an elementalism check, which is 14 down here, but it's built in to this mechanic. So we'll click on Fireball. It's going to ask us what power we want to cast this at. So at power level 1, it's going to cost us 2 willpower points. At power level 2, it'll cost us 4. And at power level 3, it'll cost us 6. So let's go all in. Let's say we're fighting something particularly nasty. Let's submit that, and we've rolled an 18, which is terrible. But it does give us an opportunity to show the reroll or the push mechanic, which is something that a lot of free league games have got. In order to push your roll, you have to take a condition. So our elementalism is linked to our intelligence. So we become angry. So we'd click on angry unless, in a roleplay sense, we can justify one of these other terms. So maybe we're disheartened or scared. And the reason you might want to do that, one, you want to roleplay what's appropriate. But mechanically speaking, if you take one of these conditions, it means that you have disadvantage, or it means you have a bane with every check linked to that attribute. So if we become angry, all of our intelligence checks are going to be at disadvantage. And being a wizard, that's really not something we want. So maybe we can say that we singed our eyebrows and we become dazed. Maybe we can say that summoning the 3 power worth of fireball has left us feeling a little bit exhausted. So we can click on exhausted, and then we can click on elementalism here, and we can see that we need to add a bane. So we'll add a bane, and we can click on elementalism, and we can see that we've rolled 2 dice. We've got a 20 and a 14, and we've taken the worst one, which is the 20, which is a critical failure. So it's gone from bad to worse. Say, for example, we had succeeded. In the chat, we'd roll 46 damage, and we would have done 17 points of damage. Now, interestingly, because we've got that, let's remove that bane. Because we've got that critical failure, you'll notice there's now a red mark filled in, like here, but it's filled in for elementalism. And that's to do with progression and advancement in the Dragonbane system. And we'll cover that a little bit later in the video. So we now know how to push a roll. We take a bane, we re-roll by clicking the icon in the chat box, and we recognize then that going forward we've got a disadvantage with one of our attributes or the skills linked to that attribute. And it's a risk-reward mechanic that you've got to try and figure out situationally whether you're happy to have disadvantage on future rolls with around a certain skill or not. And you can re-roll all of your rolls practically unless you critically fail, and you can have lots of different conditions. So we could actually have all of these conditions, and if you get to all of these conditions you start going into different mechanics, which will give you disadvantage, or which will make life harder for you. But again, that you're probably going to be in pretty dire straits if you get to that stage, and we'll leave that up to your GM to go through. So the 20 we rolled has given us an advancement level or a token in elementalism. Now, if we'd have rolled a 1 and we'd got a critical success, we also would have got that, because we learn in this game through critical successes as well as through critical failures. So let's say we now want to advance. It's the end of the session, which is when you would roll this. You click this icon up here, and we want to beat our score here. So rolling a 16, we've beaten our 14, which means that our elementalism has gone up to 15. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about some other mechanics. So resting. You've got a round rest, which you can do in combat. That'll get you back 1d6 of willpower. In order to do that, you just click on the word round, and the mechanics will roll that for you, and it'll also update your willpower. So you gain 3 willpower. We've got a stretch rest, which is like a short rest. That'll get you d6 willpower, and it'll also get you d6 hit points. And it'll also remove a condition. So let's click on stretch. Now it's going to ask us if we're being cared for. So if we're the only one who's hurt, another party member might care for us, and that'll increase the number of dice we can roll to get back willpower and hit points. We're going to say no in this case, and we'll click OK. We've regained 5 willpower points, 2 hit points, which is automatically updated, and it'll tell us now that we can heal a condition of our choice, so we can get rid of that. The other rest we've got is a shift rest. So let's say that we are really dying here, and let's say we've got a few conditions. We can click on our shift rest, and automatically what happens is we'll get all of our willpower points back, all of our hit points back, and all of our conditions will be removed. And a shift rest can only be done once per day. So that's the equivalent of a long rest, if you like, if you're talking in D&D money. Another thing you can do for death saves, so if you're down and out and you need to make a death save, you can click on the word death save, and as you succeed it will automatically tally any successes and any failures. We've got 3 successes here, which is amazing. 3 successes would mean when you're at like 0 hit points. If you had 3 successes, it would give you D6 hit points back, and it'll roll that for you there. So that gives you 3 back in this case. We'll just pop all those back on there for now. The other thing I wanted to talk about, or one of the other things I wanted to talk about, is initiative. Initiative in Dragonbane is done with cards, unless your GM wants to do it differently, and it's low to high like most of the things in this game. So initiative, the cards are numbered 1 to 10. Number 1 would go first, number 10 would go last. Now, one thing you can do in Dragonbane, like other games, is you can hold your turn, but it works a little bit differently. So say, for example, Archmaster Eodin got the number 1, and we're fighting a Manticore, and the Manticore got card number 3, and I've got Barbarian Bob, who got card number 6. Now, I don't want to go first, because of whatever reason, it would be more advantageous for Bob to go first. So I can say to Bob, Bob, I'm going to swap initiative with you. Mechanically, the way it's written down, Bob would have to accept that decision, and Bob would then go to number 1, and I would go to number 6. Realistically, that tends to be played out as a conversation around the table or on the VTT. As long as everybody's happy, that's cool. If the group aren't super pleased with it, you might just need to step in, smooth things over, or maybe let them talk things out a little bit more and come up with the plan. You can only swap initiative on your turn. So Bob couldn't say to me, I want to swap initiative with you, you were number 1. That would be breaking the third wall a bit too much. So you can only say you're going to swap initiative when it's your turn. So you've got to come up with the idea if you're number 1, or you can do your action, whichever you want to do. You can, if I've swapped with Bob, so I'm now number 6, somebody else who's number 2 could swap with me, and then I'd go to 2, but you know, we're getting into things that are far too specific, I suppose, now. The other thing you can do with initiative is you can break your initiative order by doing a reaction. So say, for example, the Manticore, Bob's acted, and he's hurt this Manticore, but the Manticore wants to attack me. So it's making a roll to attack me. Before it rolls its damage dice, I can decide whether I want to parry, if I'm able to, and it will tell me in the description of the attack if I can, or if I'm being attacked with a weapon, I'll be able to parry. And parrying will basically stop the damage coming through. So I can parry by making a weapons skill check, so I can click on staves here, and I've succeeded. So I've batted away maybe a sword or something with my staff, and my damage is no longer that damage would no longer be dealt to me. Because I've parried and we're interacting, I can move a square for free, and I can move my opponent a square for free as well, without triggering any additional attacks. And that's because our swords are coming together and there's force and energy between us. Now, if we can't parry, because not everything can be parried in this game, in fact most things in my experience can't be parried, what you can do is you can evade. Evade is the same as dodge, if you see those terms, and we can click on the evade button. We've succeeded with this evade roll, which means I can move a square for free as I'm dodging out of the way. My opponent wouldn't move a square. I can't move them because I'm moving away from them. In both of these cases, though, where I'm parrying or where I'm evading, I've broken the order of the initiative because my turn is now after the Manticore. They had initiative 3, I have initiative 6. As a result of breaking that turn, I've lost my action. I can't do anything. So I turn, in a physical game, I turn my card sideways. In a VTT game, we just move past me and we'd go on to the next person in the turn order. I've managed to save myself. I've avoided damage, but that's all I could do in this round of combat. And that's one of the things you have to think about. If you've got, like this chap, Archmaster Aiden, has no armor, then evade might be quite a useful skill to try and level up. But if I'm a tank, I've got loads of armor, and someone's swinging at me with a sword, then I might just say, come at me because I want to do more damage to you than you're going to do to me, and then we're going to end this combat and I'm going to chop you in lots of pieces. So it's about those little decisions that you have to make, like just like the Boon and the Bane mechanic. While we talk about mentioning the Boon and the Bane one more time, we'll wrap it up with this. Advantage and disadvantage, or boons and banes in this game, stack. So let's say, for example, I'm exhausted, so I've got a bane on that roll. Now let's say I'm the only person, the Manticore's dead, and the Archmaster's the only person alive. The party's in a moat around a castle, and I'm stood up and I'm trying to lift up a portcullis, or I'm trying to lift up some type of a bridge, maybe to free somebody or whatever. I've already got a bane on I've already got a condition, so I've got a bane on my strength checks, and the GM says that's fine, you can do it, but you're doing it with a bane. So I would add an additional bane, and then I would make my strength check. Now, adding an additional bane and making my strength check, as you can see here, I've had to roll 3 dice, so I've got double disadvantage. So I've rolled an 18, a 20, and a 5, so I'm going to critically fail, which is perfect because I'm old and I'm a mage and I shouldn't be lifting portcullises. But let's say Bob's come to help me. If Bob comes to help me, let's get rid of this bane. We can click this button to remove that. Bob's coming to help me, and I'm still exhausted, but he's going to help me. Then he wouldn't get to roll. Instead, the GM would say, "Okay, Archmaster, you can roll with a boon with advantage." So I'd get myself a boon, and I would click on strength. Now, because I've got a boon and I have a bane, what would actually happen is I would just make a straight roll, and I've managed to succeed with Bob's help. And the portcullis comes up, or the bridge comes up. You can get multiple boons if somebody wants to help you and you're doing cool narrative things. You can get extra advantage. You can also get multiple banes through conditions, through circumstances, or through horrible GMs that want to make your life hard, which is necessary at times in their defense. That is, I think, everything that I wanted to cover to give you a bit of a heads up. So you can make rolls just by clicking these attributes. You now know how these conditions work and how to clear them through using your rests. You know to control your boons and your banes up here if you've got situational boons and banes. You know that your abilities cost you willpower points. You know how to make general skill checks. You know how to advance those skill checks. You know how to equip armor. You know how to make general attack rolls. You know how to do a round rest to recover that willpower. You know how to do a stretch rest to recover willpower and hit points and remove conditions. And if you've got lots of things going on, you know how to make a shift rest to make them all go away so that you can start again. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to create lots more Dragonbane content coming up. As you can see on the left hand side of the screen, we've got the Alchemist's Fire, which is a Gallows Tomes adventure that we're going to be running soon on Roll20, and we'll be doing a review on. All of that will be up in the next week or so, week to 10 days maybe. Before then, the following week we'll move on to a different scenario. So there should be, coming soon, lots of lovely Dragonbane content for you. Like I said, if you liked it. If you want to support the channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.